untap upkeep, and welcome back to the channel if you've been here before. And if you haven't, please sit down, relax, and enjoy the show that we have for you today. So, I thought that for today's show, I would sit down and join the wonderful splendor, the monotony that is new commanders that are out. And for that, we decided to do Hashaton as a budget build. Um, this card is ridiculously powerful. I've seen it in some EDH games, and then I've seen it really go in some CEDH games. So let's see what kind of shenanigans can we do when he's restricted on a budget, shall we? And for those that have already liked, comment, shared, and subscribed, especially subscribed, thank you so much for all the love and the support. Please continue to do so, and I will be here all this time to keep making content for you. And if you haven't subscribed, come on, show the Buddha some love. With that, let's jump into it, shall we? So, first up, let's look at the actual commander. This is Hashaton, Scarab's First. He's a white, a black for a 1/3 zombie wizard. And he says, whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 in a blue, and if you do, create a tapped token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. It stinks that it comes into play tapped, but that's okay. We can do this at instant speed, and then at sometimes it is worth it being that 4/4 creature because it does make certain things bigger, as you will see as we go through the deck. As you can imagine, we are very, very creature heavy because we want to be able to discard things and basically bring them back from the dead. And I have a nice little surprise for the end of this. Um, and we'll see what that is when we get there, shall we? So here's our monster list of creatures that we're doing right here. As you could probably see, one of our major win conditions is, of course, the Grey Merchant or Asphodel, better known as Gary. So when he enters the battlefield, each opponent is going to lose X life or X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life loss this way. Each swamp or black symbol and the mana cost of permanents you control counts towards your devotion to black. So I thought it'd be a fun card to have into this deck. We have a lot of black permanents that we can play, so it can help keep us alive and help sustain us as well as possibly in the game, especially if you do some upgrades to it later. So that's one of our real win conditions. Our other win condition is basically we're just going to smack the crap out of you with a bunch of zombies. Kind of boring, but it's effective. One thing I didn't go over is the fact that this is estimated to be as a bracket 2 deck, meaning we're hanging with most of the pre-constructed commanders that are out these days, which is about right because this is basically the pre-con, but focused more on Hashaton versus the actual face commander. So, where shall we start? I guess we'll start just right here, and we'll go and make our way that way and figure out what we're going to do. So we have Rhoda here that allows us to draw a card and then discard a card. So this is one of our outlets that we're able to do and reliably discard cards to trigger our commander, as well as replacing cards in our hand. And she has a bonus ability, so whenever you cast a legendary spell, you get to untap her. Pretty good, I think. And it would be funny for her to be discarded in the first place and then bring her back as a 4/4 instead of a 1/3. That could actually mean something. Groundyard Lurker is a very interesting card I wanted to throw into this deck. So if we reanimate it as a zombie, it's a little bit weaker as a 4/4 versus a 7/7. But it still would have vigilance. And the fun part is it has a built-in way to discard it. So for 2 in a blue, we can cycle it. And if we cycle it, we are going to discard it and draw a new card. It's going to replace itself. And that could be potentially good, in my opinion. And the fact that we could do that at instant speed, meaning we could do that at the end of the last person's turn and not only replenish our hand by getting a new card that might help us win or stall the game, whatever we need. But we also get another 4/4 body that's going to come to play tapped anyway, so it's best to wait as long as we can. Also, whenever you cycle or cast this card, you get to make a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token that can sacrifice and add a colorless mana. So, it has a couple of benefits to it, I think, which is why I added it into the deck, because it's not bad if you play it as a 7/7 body either, but preferably we're going to discard it and essentially get 2 bodies for the price of 1. Baleful Strix is a hilariously great Dimir card, classic in Commander decks that run blue, black, and X, or just blue, black. So for blue and a black, we're able to play this flying death touchy bird that when it enters the battlefield, we're able to draw a card. But, hear me out. Let's reanimate it as a zombie, so now instead of a 1/1, we have a 4/4 flying beat stick with death touch. I like to run my dragons, but even I don't get near a flying death touchy boy. Not unless I know I can kill you. Because I'm gonna lose a dragon, and that's just disheartening. Disheartening. Next, let's go to the Ashen Rider. A lot of mana, being a 4 double white, double black creature, 5/5. Probably never really going to cast him for that mana cost. But whenever he enters the battlefield or he dies, we get to exile something. That seems like a pretty good win to me. Moving forward, let's go to the Corpse Knight. So the Corpse Knight is just a white and a black 2/2 creature. Not that great. We can reanimate it, basic. I keep saying reanimating, but we're making a token copy of it, really. And it becomes a 4/4 instead of a 2/2, so that's pretty nice. The Ashen Rider would lose a little bit of power, being that it's a 5/5 with flying, but the trade-off is worth it since we're going to pay 3 mana versus 8. That's a lot. But moving forward, back to the Corpse Knight. So whenever another creature you control enters, each opponent is going to lose 1 life. So if we're able to get this out, and we're able to do something like a Drownyard Lurker, or Baleful Strix, or even Ashen Rider, anything like that, every time we make a body, we're able to drain our opponents, which is a pretty good win condition, I think, for this deck. Moving even more into the, I guess you call it token strategy, is the Grave Titan, which got reprinted with some really unique artwork, I must say. I'm kind of digging it, though the original is still pretty sweet in my opinion, too. So it's a 6 mana, 6/6 death touching giant. So if we used Hashaton to cast it at half the mana cost, it would go a 4/4 instead of a 6/6. We'll take that trade, because whenever it enters or attacks, we're going to make 2 more 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. We'll take that trade. Next up, we have the Obsessive Stitcher that can become a 4/4 versus a 0/3. We really just care about the fact that it's another thing kind of like Rona, which is ironic that they're side by side. Excuse me, that we're able to tap to draw a card and then discard a card. We can also tap 2, a blue, a black, tap, and then sacrifice it to return target creature card from our graveyard to our battlefield. So we could do that at instant speed as well. So, I mean, potentially we could do that to get Ashen Rider back at instant speed and exile something that we don't like or is causing a problem. So, you know, that's not horrible. We could even do that same thing with Gary over here so that we can drain some more life. This is a card that I'm betting not a lot of people know about and probably not a lot of people have seen. So this is Undertaker. And it has an ability that I think is very worthy to keep in the deck. So for a black, tap it, discard a card from your hand. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a way to instant speed, be able to buy back something in case of a mass removal, graveyard removal. So this is a way to say, oh no 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 no, we want our Grave Titan back, or one of the other scary things that work in this deck. So I thought it'd be a nice little budget include. There is an enchantment version of this that is even better, but we will get to that later potentially. It is actually quite expensive now because of this commander. It really wasn't before, but it is now. Moving forward to one of my secret surprises in this deck being that it is budget. I have budget Eldrazi's in here, as you could probably tell by looking at the screen. Yes, I'm that person. Yes, I'm that mean and evil, and no, I do not care. So this is Ulamog's Crusher. Yes, it would be weaker if we cast it through our commander, being that it would be a 4/4 versus an 8/8. That does hurt some, but he doesn't have trample, so it's not that bad. And he has to attack each combat anyway, as long as he's able to. So being the token version is probably not going to be the end of the world for us. What's fun is it has Annihilator too. So for budget Eldrazi, I think it's pretty sweet. Moving again up our list, we have the Merfolk Looter that, again, which is really, really odd to me, that the Stitcher, Rona, and Looter are all like right here in a row. But it's another tap, draw a card, discard a card, so we can trigger our commander. Gleaming Overseer, he comes in the precon originally, so I figured let's add him here as well. Zombie tokens you control have Hexproof and Menace. And when he enters, you get to amass one zombie. We don't care. He's just here because of what he does with our zombie tokens. Next, we have the Champion of Wits. So whenever it enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. So originally, you're going to draw 2, discard 2 whenever you just cast it for 3 mana. Or, hear me out, you can discard it with Merfolk Looter, for instance, and then you're going to reanimate it with our commander, and now he's a 4/4, not a 2/1. Now you're going to draw 4 cards, discard 2, and you could potentially discard, I don't know, Ulamog's Crusher and really have some fun here. Moving forward, we have the Artisan of Kozilek. Again, another one that we don't really want to have to do our little trick for because it is a 10/9. And we really just want to be able to hopefully cast it because if we do, we can bring a creature card from our graveyard back to the battlefield. And there's probably 2 or 3 that would be great hits for that. One of them is Ashen Rider, there's Gary, and one, as you can tell, is right next door to it, which we'll get to in just a minute. It also has Annihilator too, so even if we had to play it for 3 mana through our commander and make it a 4/4 black zombie, it still has Annihilator too. It's still a problem. We don't get the cast trigger, but that's okay. Now we're moving right next door to his good friend, the Archfiend Ifnir, which is like a key card in this deck for like keeping the board clear. So it's a 5 mana 5/4 flying demon that has cycling, so we can pay 2 mana, instant speed, discard it, and draw a card. And if we do that with our commander out, we can pay 3 mana. So for the same cost of 5 mana, we got a new card and a token copy of this that we can start doing some serious damage. So whenever we cycle or discard another card, put a neg1 counter on each creature your opponents control. Now it's a counter. It's not they get neg1 until end of turn. It's a permanent counter, so we can get rid of a lot of things. I mean, if you lose Looter, Stitcher, and Rhoda, I mean that's 3 neg1 counters on something. 3. Sweet. So moving forward, though, let's go back to my Eldrazi creations with the Breaker of Creation. When you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each colorless permanent you control. Probably not going to gain a whole lot of life out of that. Again, it's another one that we don't particularly care to cast to our commander. It is going to be a little bit weaker as an 8/4, but that's okay. It has Annihilator too, and then it has Hexproof from each color, meaning none of your opponents can use a Swords Path or anything else like that to get rid of this thing once it actually hits. We're able to just keep in an Annihilator 2 4 Eldrazi creature token on the battlefield. Pretty sweet. Ghostly Pilferer is just a nice card to have in this deck. So whenever it becomes untapped, we can pay 2. If we do, we could draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, we get to draw a card, i.e., if you cast your commander, we're able to draw a card. This is the important part of it, though. It is a discard outlet, so we can discard it and it can't be blocked this turn. So it is a discard outlet through our commander. We can discard the Breaker of Creation, for instance, at instant speed. It doesn't matter that it can't be blocked on somebody else's turn. We don't give a hoot about that. What we do care about is the fact that we can discard the Breaker of Creation, and we're able to pay, hopefully, the mana to make it a 4/4 tap zombie. It's just a nice free discard outlet whenever we need it. This is Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel. He has Flash Flying and is a 2/1. So whenever he deals combat damage to a player, put a Chorus counter on it. Draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 4 or more Chorus counters on Malcolm, you may cast the discarded card without paying its mana cost. So this has a couple of benefits to it. So we're able to draw cards. It has flying, so we can stop dragons and drakes and angels and demons and stuff like that. So if nothing else, it is a decent little blocker, but the fact that we are able to draw and discard a card triggers our commander, it feeds our commander, so we like that. And then if there happens to be 4 or more Chorus counters on it, whatever we discard, we can possibly just cast it anyway. So maybe it's Ulamog's Crusher, maybe it's Gary, maybe it's Grave Titan, who knows what it could be. Maybe it's Fun Titan, Sun Titan. So whenever he enters or attacks, you may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if any of our looters or Corpse Knight or anything like that has gone away throughout the game, we can always play this bad boy and hopefully get them back. Also, we don't really care to have it become a 4/4 because we don't really care. We just care about the fact that it would enter and then it would have vigilance, so we still have a blocker. Pardon me, we still get the ability, so that's always nice. Next, we're looking at the, of course, Sad Robot. How could you not put Sad Robot in? We're in Esper. Our ramp package is not the best when you compare to anything with green. Duh. And not to mention, whenever it dies, we're going to be able to draw a card. So we get to discard it, hopefully, pay 3 mana, so it's a little bit of a discount. Make a token copy of it that's going to enter. We're going to go find a land. It's going to come into play tapped as well. And then if at some point it dies, who cares? We get to draw a card. Pretty good trade-off. Lore Broker. Again, right here in this row. That is so weird how they did that. Moxfield is another one of our draw and discard effects. Only this counts for everybody. So there could be a moment where, you know, you could kind of get somebody. You could help somebody. Who knows? There could be some shenanigans to have here. So this is our next creature at Forgotten Creation. Again, he comes in the precon, so he's pretty good here. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may discard all the cards in your hand, and if you do, draw that many cards. So if we're stuck on lands or something like that we're needing more fuel for our commander, we're able to get rid of them and hopefully draw more gas for our commander. Moving forward, another Eldrazi in the Breaker of Armies. It is a gigantic 10/8 that says all creatures able to block the Breaker of Armies must do so. So it doesn't have Trample, it doesn't have Annihilator, but 3 mana for a 4/4 creature that makes everybody block it. It's not bad. At worst case scenario, we paid full price at 8 mana for a 10/8 Beat Stick. I don't see where the problem is in that either. On to the next, we have the Arbiter of Woe. He is new from Foundations, and I thought he'd be a hilariously great card in this deck. So as an additional cost to cast it, we must sacrifice a creature. We don't really plan on casting it for that. We plan on discarding this thing and being able to make a token copy, if you will. So whenever this creature enters, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life. You get to draw a card and gain 2 life. So ideally, we want to discard this to, I don't know, Ghostly Pilfer. Pay 3 mana, make a 4/4 flying demon at instant speed that makes everybody have to discard and lose 2 life while we get to draw and gain 2. I thought it'd be a nice, fun, budget friendly include because flyers are a thing. I've seen a lot of games where flyers can change the board, they can take over. Speaking of which, another big fatty from Modern Horizons 3 reprint is the Angel of the Ruins. So it would become a 4/4 with flying, not that great. But whenever Angel of the Ruins enters the battlefield, exile 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. So we could potentially get rid of problematic cards that are on the battlefield that we just cannot deal with otherwise. And the difference between this and why this is so good is we can exile them. Remove her from the game. Goodbye. See you later. Much better than destroy, in my opinion. Especially for some very, very, very certain problematic artifacts and enchantments, such as, Doubling Season, which just got a nice reprint in Foundations. Boy. So it also has plane cycling, so we can pay 2, discard this card, search our library for a planes card, reveal it, put it to your hand, and then shuffle. So it doesn't put it onto the battlefield, which is a sad face, but we are able to go find a dual land, if you will, and at least be able to make our land drops if we had to. Another Eldrazi in the Bane of Balagid, or Ged. So it would become a 4/4, which is kind of a bummer, but whenever it attacks, defending player exiles 2 permanents he or she controls. So essentially, it's like having an Annihilator, but an upgrade, because it's not being sacrificed and sent to the grave. No. You have to exile it. It's being removed from the game. As you can tell, I'm a mean person when I play sometimes, and I want to be able to have things and you not. That's what this deck says. At least that's what I think it says. Moving forward, we finally have a gigantic Eldrazi with Trample. So it would be an 8/9 for the Eldrazi Devastator. Yeah, it'd be kind of a bummer for him to be a 4/4, but still, 4/4 with Trample, it's going to hit. Some people can't stop that. We have our last Eldrazi in the hand of Emrakul. So we can sacrifice some spawn in order to play it versus the actual 9 mana. We don't really care. It has Annihilator 1, and it would become a 4/4 versus a 7/7. Not that bad. The last card for the creature section is the Scourge Familiar. So it has flying, which could or could not be relevant, but what we really care about is we can discard a card and add a black mana. So this is a hilariously great card. It usually sees play in things like the Gitrog Monster, potentially, and it does a lot of work there, so I figured it would do some work here. We're able to make a whole bunch of mana by discarding a whole bunch of creatures and or excess things that we don't really need to try and win the game, and this is just a nice way to finish the game, in my opinion, as well as get some mana and be able to do some things. Moving forward, we have Chart a Course. So this is our sorcery package we are running. We're not running very many of them, as well as instances. We're not running many of them either. So we can draw 2 cards and then discard a card unless you attack this turn. So if we're trying to trigger our commander and we've already got the mana to do it, then we could use this to potentially trigger our commander. If we absolutely need all the cards, we could attack first and then play this. It's not going to matter one way or the other. One of our board wipes is Damn. It came in the precon. It's fine in this deck as well. If you overload it, instead of destroying just one creature, you're going to destroy all the creatures. It hurts us too, but it's okay. It's worth it. Preordain, just a 1 blue mana, be able to scry and draw capability. Unburial Rites has flashback, and it's a good way for us to be able to reanimate something from our graveyard if we really need the effect, and we could do it twice. Victimize and Zombify are more pieces of reanimation that just kind of give us a little bit more stability, in my opinion. Victimize, we're able to bring 2 creatures back, and Zombify brings us back 1. Moving on, we have a few counter spells, a few more draw spells, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So we have Negate, Spell Pierce, and Offer you can't refuse. Just being able to counter spells that we otherwise can't deal with. Path and Swords are classic white EDH staples that allow us to exile problematic creatures, such as, I don't know, a Blightsteel Colossus. Moving, and we also have a Void Rend here that allows us to destroy target non-land permanent. So this can get rid of a couple of different things, and the spell can't be countered. Gotta like that. One of our last pieces of removal would be Disenchant. It allows us to destroy target artifact or enchantment. We're also running a surprise because we can do things in instant speed. We are a blue deck. People have to be aware and respect the colors. We can run Aetherize and be able to return all the attacking creatures back to their owner's hands and just poo-poo on their whole parade. Seems like a win. Opt, just 1 mana scry and draw capability. Faithful Mending is something I've been wanting to try out, and I think it'd be fun in this deck. So for a white and a blue, instant speed, we are able to gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, and then discard 2 cards. So we could potentially trigger our commander twice and be able to get 2 things back if we're late game and have enough mana. We can also flash it back later if we had to mill or discard this card at any point in time in the game. So we have another shot at doing this. Our last bit of little burst card draw would be the Frantic Search. So for 3 mana, we can draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. More importantly, we get to untap 3 lands. So untapping 3 lands could be a difference maker when you're playing this deck. We're running quite a bit of artifacts, but that's because a lot of this is going to be mana. Like, a lot of this is your standard mana rocks you would see in a typical build like this. From the Signets to the Talismans, the Soul Ring, even Wayfarer's Bauble, the Boots. So, I mean, you got your pretty standard package for an Esper artifact ramp deck right here. So our artifact ramp package here, pretty standard. I mean, the only 2 that are not technically budget would be Soul Ring and Swiftfoot Boots. Even Thought Vessels hovering around the edge there, just at the $1. I've decided to include Swiftfoot Boots and the Soul Ring in any of these decks I'm building, mainly because, I mean, you could get a Soul Ring and a pair of boots in just about any precon. In fact, I'm 95% sure both are in the precon anyway. So to me, that should be fine. Come on now. Our last artifact is the Great Door. I'm not even going to try to say the first word because English is hard, guys. It's just hard. My brain just can't handle it today. But I'll let you look at it from here. So it is to my default browser. Get out of here. Interrupting my video. So moving forward, we can play our Door, and it's just another draw a card, then discard a card effect, and I really like it in this build. It's not a creature, so it dodges a whole bunch of it dodges a whole bunch of issues that we could have by blowing up creatures. So it's just nice. I mean, it also flips over if we're able to flip it and add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So it just kind of synergizes pretty well with our commander. Why they gave me the promo pre-release version, I don't know. We're going to keep it. I mean, it's 25 cents for a stamped promo foil version. My inner dragon says yes because like shiny toys. You might notice that I actually did not put a dragon in this list. It's pretty interesting that it's one of the ones I did not. Next, we have our 1 enchantment being Oversouled Cemetery. I just thought it'd be a great card to have in here because we can get our creature card back from our graveyard into our hand as long as we have 4 more creatures. We're running almost 30 creatures in this deck. We should be able to do this pretty reliably. Pretty standard mana base when you have colors in this situation between some of the dual lands, the fetch lands being Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds. Bonner's Enclave, because we're making 4/4 zombies. We're able to draw. You got your Tri-Land, several basics to help smooth out everything. We're actually running 36. This is budget, so I wanted to be sure we could always make our land drops. We are running, of course, one way to remove problematic creatures from the problematic lands. I've got creatures on the brain, people. Problematic lands from our battlefield that are causing us to not be able to do things, such as the Tabernacle. And we have a nice surprise land for our opponents, which is the Gyre Reach Sanitarium. Kind of surprised it wasn't in the pre-con. At least I don't remember it being in there. Might have been. But then again, it wasn't really built for Hashaton. It was built for the face commander. Being that this is built for Hashaton, I thought it'd be a great include. So for 2, we can tap. Each player is going to draw a card and then discard a card. So essentially for 5 mana, we're going to basically play one of our big bodies. I thought it'd be a nice include. It helps keep our hand a little bit full and trigger our commander. So moving now to the surprise, as you can see, this is a budget deck at $35.94, rounding up to a nice stable 36. And now we're going to see my surprise, which is I have a list of considering cards that allow me to up the budget a little bit and potentially, get things going here. So, as you can see, we added a couple of different creatures we can swap out here and there. Another looting effect. The Ledger Shredder would just constantly trigger as the game gets late. The Scarab God, because it is the Scarab God. It came in the pre-con. It's just not down enough for my restriction to throw it into the deck. Archon of Cruelty. He got a reprint in a commander deck as well. He's just not come down enough to be added either. But these are all just some nice creatures with some bonus effects. There's Living Death. I thought would be a great way to mash reanimate everything if we had to. A couple more counter spells, another piece of removal, and the other thing that is kind of like the Undertaker is the Tortured Existence, which is seeing a tremendous spike in price because of Hashaton. So for black, you can choose and discard a creature card, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's like having another version of the Undertaker. And, being able to get some of our stuff back. So, it's pretty nice, Mana curve doesn't look bad at all. And, even with some big fatties here where we're still pretty heavy on the 2s, so we're able to hopefully get this deck up off the ground. We got plenty of mana, so yeah, this is actually a great hand. Let's go. I'm not actually going to do any of the playtesting because I've seen a lot of this on the internet and I think it's a pretty good card. But with that, I think I'm actually going to draw this video to a close, so let me know what you think. Do you like Hashaton? I think he's a great commander. I think he's got a lot of potential to be really, really dumb. You can make him more toolboxy, you can make him more big fatty creatures, you can make him combo centric. He has a lot of avenues he can be. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, leave me some comments. How would you build Hashaton? And do you like the selections I have for my little budget deck that I've built for him? And what would you have in the consider board if you could only make it a $75 or so budget deck in total? So what would you do with this commander and how would you run him? Will you go full power? Will you do janky crap like I did? I'm curious. I want to know. I've been your Buddha Dragon. Please like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe. Show me some love. Ring that bell. And we'll try to get some more content coming. Let me know what you're looking for. With all that said, rub that belly for mana, and may your games fill you with nothing but luck. Until the next game and the next show, peace out.